Look around your room right now. Somewhere near you, there is probably an object that feels completely normal, something you would never think twice about, that many Japanese homes would simply never allow to exist in the first place. It is not a design choice. It is not about having less money, less space, or less stuff. It is about a different set of rules for what is allowed to stay and what has to leave. Be honest, your home is not messy because you're lazy. It is carrying habits you never chose on purpose. They arrived quietly, one convenience at a time, until they became normal. And once something becomes normal, you stop noticing what it costs you. In many Japanese homes, an entirely different logic runs underneath the surface. It is not about minimalism as an aesthetic. It is about a set of quiet boundaries between outside and inside, between used and finished, between things you own and things that own you. Today we are going through 15 of them. Some are physical. You will recognize them the moment I say them. Others are quieter, the kind of thing that sits in the back of a drawer or the corner of a counter, doing damage you never connected to it. And the final few are not really about objects at all. They are about what those objects are quietly telling your mind every single day, whether you notice or not. Stay with me because the habit at number 11 is the one almost nobody thinks to check, and it may be sitting in your bathroom cabinet right now. And after the final point, I will give you one simple, no cost routine you can use tonight to start resetting your home the way many Japanese households already do every evening, almost without thinking about it. This is the Japanese Reset, where we explore small Japanese ideas that can make everyday life calmer, cleaner, and more intentional. Let's start with what you can see. Number one, outside things crossing into your inside life. In an ordinary Western home, there is often no real boundary between the outdoors and the rest of the house. Shoes come off somewhere near the door, maybe, or maybe they don't come off at all. Bags get dropped wherever the arm gets tired. Coats end up on chairs instead of hooks. The street, in a small way, keeps walking further into the house than it should. In many Japanese homes, this boundary has a name. It is called the genkan, a slightly lowered entry area that exists specifically to separate outside from inside. Shoes stop there. Bags often pause there. It is a small transition zone, but its purpose is large. Nothing from the outside world is allowed to travel uninvited into the space where you rest. The hidden cost of skipping this boundary is not just dirt on the floor, it is a psychological one. When outside mess is allowed to spread freely through your home, your mind never fully registers that you have left the outside world behind. You are still standing in out there, even while you are technically home. The principle behind the Genkan is simple. A home needs a clear line where the outside world ends. You do not need architecture to create one. A mat, a small shelf, or even a marked off corner near your door can serve the same function. The rule matters more than the material. Try this tonight. Choose 1 square meter near your door. Nothing outside related is allowed to travel past it. Not shoes, not bags, not mail still in your hand. The shift is simple. Your home stops the moment your body does. Number two, a kitchen counter where every appliance stands on permanent display. Picture the average counter, a toaster, a coffee machine, a blender, a stand mixer used twice a year. Maybe a rack of unused gadgets bought during a health kick that lasted 11 days. None of it is put away, because putting it away takes effort, and leaving it out feels efficient. In many Japanese kitchens, especially in smaller urban homes, counter space is treated as sacred and mostly empty. Appliances are stored until the moment they are needed, then returned. Nothing sits out simply because it might be used again someday. The cost of a cluttered counter is not really about cooking convenience. It is about the low hum of visual noise your brain processes every time you walk into the kitchen. Studies on visual clutter consistently associate a crowded field of view with the brain expending more effort just to process the space, even before you have done a single task in it. Your kitchen is quietly asking your mind to work harder before you have even opened the fridge. The practical principle here is simple. A surface earns the right to hold something only while that thing is actively being used. Once you are finished, it goes home. Start with one small action tomorrow. Choose a single appliance you rarely use and put it away in a cupboard, not thrown out, just returned to storage. Notice how much lighter the counter feels with even one item gone. Number 3. Cleaning products and tools duplicated under every sink. You know the one. A half used bottle of the same cleaning spray in three different rooms. Sponges bought because the old one might have been lost, except it wasn't lost, it was simply buried behind newer sponges. A drawer of tools you already own somewhere else in the house. This happens because buying feels like solving the problem. If cleaning feels overwhelming, a new product feels like progress, even when three older versions of it already exist somewhere in the house. In the Japanese approach to household objects, there is a concept called mottainai, a sense of regret over waste and a respect for what you already own. It does not mean hoarding things out of guilt. It means genuinely using what exists before acquiring more. The hidden cost of duplication is decision fatigue. Every extra bottle, every backup sponge is one more thing your mind has to sort through when you are simply trying to clean a counter. The practical fix does not require a big clean out. Choose one category, cleaning sprays, sponges, or trash bags, and consolidate every duplicate into a single location. Use what exists before buying anything new. The shift is simple, one home for one type of object, not five. Number 4. A closet holding clothes for a body that no longer exists. Be honest, you have probably kept them for motivation. The jeans from 10 years ago, the dress from a wedding a decade past, the shirt that used to fit before a job change, a pregnancy, an injury, or simply time. But motivation is not what you feel every morning when you open that closet and see them hanging there. What you feel is a quiet, repeated reminder of a body you are not currently in. That is not inspiration. That is friction, dressed up as hope. In Japanese organizing philosophy, particularly the practice known as danshari, the emphasis is on separating from what no longer serves your present life. Danshari combines the ideas of refusal, disposal, and separation, applied not just to objects but to the attachments behind them. The goal is not punishment, it is honesty about who you are today. The shift is simple. Dress the person who exists right now, not the person you were, and not the person you hope to become. If certain items genuinely matter for sentimental reasons, that is different from clothes kept out of guilt or denial. Keep the meaningful few, release the rest. You do not need to empty your whole closet in a weekend. Choose 5 items you have not worn in over a year and place them in a bag for donation tonight. Number 5. Decorative clutter and souvenirs kept out of guilt, not love. Every home has them. A shelf of trinkets from trips long forgotten, gifts from relatives that never matched your taste but feel wrong to remove, small objects that mean nothing anymore, except the discomfort of imagining them in the trash. This is where mottainai is often misunderstood. The principle is not keep everything because throwing it away is wasteful. The principle is closer to honor an object properly, which sometimes means passing it on to someone who will actually use or appreciate it. Keeping something you resent is not respect, it is quiet obligation. The emotional cost here is subtle but constant. Every object your eyes land on sends a tiny signal to your brain. Either this belongs or this is unresolved. A shelf full of unresolved objects creates a low, steady hum of unfinished business, even if you could never name a single item that bothers you. The practical action is simple. Pick up each item on one shelf. If it brings genuine warmth, it stays. If it brings only guilt or indifference, it is allowed to go, ideally to someone who will actually value it rather than into a landfill. We have now covered what you can see the moment you walk into a room, but this is only the visible layer. The next 5 habits are quieter. They do not sit on a shelf where you notice them daily. They sit inside your routines, creating friction you have learned to tune out. Number 6. Dishes left soaking in the sink overnight. It feels harmless. You will deal with them in the morning. The sink becomes a holding pattern, a small postponement at the end of an exhausting day. But a sink full of standing water and food residue overnight is one of the more consistent hygiene concerns in an ordinary kitchen. Moist, warm conditions are exactly what allow bacteria to multiply, and a stack of unwashed dishes provides both surface area and time. This is not about fear. It is simple biology. In many Japanese households, dishwashing is treated as the final closing task of the day, not an optional one. The kitchen is reset before rest begins, the same way a workspace might be cleared before leaving an office. It is less about being house proud and more about not carrying today's mess directly into tomorrow. The practical shift does not require a full deep clean every night. It requires roughly 5 to 10 minutes. Rinse, stack, wipe the counter. That is the entire task. The reward is a kitchen that greets you in the morning instead of confronting you. Try this tonight. Before you sit down for the evening, take the 5 minutes. Notice what it feels like to walk into a clean kitchen tomorrow instead of a waiting one. Number 7. A drawer that has become a graveyard for dead batteries, tangled cords, and keys to nothing. Almost every home has one. A drawer nobody opens with intention, only necessity. And every time it opens, it produces a small flash of quiet defeat. This drawer exists because small objects create decision fatigue. A dead battery is too small a decision to deal with in the moment, so it gets placed somewhere for later, and later never comes. The Japanese approach to small object storage tends to favor designated homes for even the smallest items. Batteries in one container, cords in another, rather than a single catch all space. This is not about owning matching containers from a store. It is about the discipline of one category, one place. The practical fix takes about 15 minutes. Empty the drawer completely, test the batteries, coil the cords, identify the keys, throw away what serves no purpose. Return only what has a genuine use in a clearly separated space. You do not need to organize your entire home this week. You only need to change the order. Start with this one drawer. Number 8. Harsh overhead lighting left on through the entire evening. Most homes are lit for daytime productivity around the clock. A single bright overhead light doing every job, morning, afternoon, and night. The problem is that your body reads light as a signal. Bright, cool toned light in the evening can interfere with your body's natural production of melatonin, a hormone that helps regulate your sense of tiredness and your transition into sleep. Sitting under office level brightness at 10 at night is, in a very real sense, telling your body it is still the middle of the day. Many Japanese homes make deliberate use of the concept of meaning intentional space or pause, applied here to light and mood rather than physical objects. As evening arrives, harsh overhead lighting is often replaced with lower, warmer lamps, creating a visual signal that the day is closing, not continuing. This does not require new lighting fixtures, it requires a habit. An hour or two before bed, switch off the main overhead light and use a lamp or two instead. Let your evening space visibly separate itself from your working day. Number 9. Unread mail and paperwork slowly colonizing the table. Bills, forms, envelopes you meant to open. A stack that grows because each individual piece feels too small to deal with right now, until the pile itself becomes the obstacle. This connects to a habit some Japanese readers describe with the word tsundoku, originally used for the specific habit of acquiring books faster than you read them. The same pattern applies to paperwork, acquisition without processing. Every unopened envelope is a decision your brain knows is waiting, and an unmade decision is quietly more tiring to live with than a completed one, even a small one. The hidden cost is what researchers sometimes call an open loop. An unfinished task, your mind keeps a small amount of attention circling around, even when you are doing something else entirely. The practical fix is a 2-minute rule. Any piece of mail that can be opened, sorted, or discarded in under 2 minutes gets handled immediately, not placed on the pile. Anything requiring more time goes into a single, designated folder, not a growing stack on the table. Number 10. A bathroom counter crowded with half used bottles. Shampoo, 3 kinds. Lotion, mostly empty. A toothpaste tube from a brand you no longer buy. None of it thrown away, because each bottle still technically contains something. In many Japanese bathrooms, counters remain nearly bare, with bottles stored in a cabinet or a shower caddy and brought out only during use. The bathroom is treated less like storage and more like a small, temporary workspace. Beyond the visual clutter, there is a hygiene layer here too. A crowded, damp counter creates more surface area for mold and residue to build up in corners and behind bottles that rarely get moved or cleaned beneath. The practical fix: choose one bottle of each product, finish it, then decide honestly whether you need a replacement. Store the rest out of sight until they are actually needed. We have covered the visible clutter and the quieter daily friction underneath it, but the final 5 points are different. These are not really about objects. They are about what those objects are quietly saying to you every day, about guilt, unfinished decisions, and the boundary between rest and everything else. Number 11. Expired medicine and old cosmetics kept just in case. This is the one most people never think to check. A cabinet with half a dozen medications from years ago, expiration dates faded or ignored. Foundation and sunscreen kept well past their safe window because throwing away something you paid for feels wasteful. Here is the important part, stated plainly because this one matters for your safety, not just your space. Medication that has expired can lose effectiveness and in some cases can change chemically in ways that are not safe to use. This is not a minor tidiness issue. If you find expired medication in your home, the safest approach is to check with a pharmacist about proper disposal, rather than keeping it in reserve or simply throwing it in household trash. In many Japanese homes, medicine cabinets are checked on a rough seasonal or yearly basis, often alongside a broader home reset. This is not a mystical ritual. It is simply a scheduled habit that prevents just in case from quietly becoming years of accumulation. Cosmetics carry a smaller but real version of the same issue. Products used past their intended shelf life can carry a higher risk of bacterial growth, particularly anything applied near the eyes. The practical action here is not optional advice, it is a genuine safety habit. Check expiration dates this week. Dispose of expired medication properly, ideally through a pharmacy take back program if one is available near you. This single point may matter more than every other item on this list combined. Number 12. Books and magazines bought with real intention, never opened again. The word sundoku fits here in its original sense, the accumulation of reading material that keeps growing while the actual reading never quite happens, a stack by the bed, a shelf that used to be neat, each item bought with genuine enthusiasm, then quietly abandoned under the weight of the next purchase. This is not really about books being bad, it is about the quiet guilt that builds every time your eyes pass over them. Each unread spine becomes a small, repeated reminder of an intention you have not followed through on. The useful lesson is not that Japan is perfect at reading habits. Sundoku is a well known cultural joke in Japan too, precisely because it is common. The useful lesson is that naming the pattern makes it easier to interrupt. The practical fix: choose one unread book each week and either commit to actually reading the first chapter or pass it along to someone who will. A shelf half the size, fully intended for, feels far lighter than a shelf twice as large, full of quiet obligation. Number 13. A genkan, or entryway, that has become a dumping ground instead of a boundary. We opened this video with the idea of the genkan as a boundary between outside and inside. But there is a deeper failure mode worth naming directly. Even homes that have a designated entry space often let it collapse into chaos, shoes piled sideways, umbrellas leaning at odd angles, packages left unopened for days. The problem is not the presence of an entryway, it is a boundary that exists in theory but not in practice. A genkan that is itself cluttered fails at its one job, giving you a clean, ordered transition into your home. In many Japanese households, the genkan is kept deliberately tidy. Shoes lined up rather than scattered, only a few pairs out at a time, the rest stored in a nearby cabinet. It is a small space, but it sets the tone for the entire home. The same way a messy entrance to a workplace sets a very different tone than a clean one. The practical action: spend 2 minutes tonight lining up whatever shoes are near your door and moving anything unrelated to entry, mail, boxes, bags into the rooms where it actually belongs. Number 14. Work items with no boundary from your rest space. A laptop left open on the nightstand, work documents on the same table where you eat dinner, a phone charging directly beside your pillow, notifications lighting the ceiling at midnight. Many Western homes have no physical separation between the place where I work and the place where I rest, especially since remote work became common. The result is a nervous system that never fully receives the signal to switch off because the environment itself never changes. Japanese homes have historically used a strong architectural and cultural distinction between different types of rooms, with sleeping spaces kept deliberately simple and separate from work or study areas, even within small apartments. The idea connects to seijaku, a sense of stillness or tranquility, which is difficult to create in a room still humming with the day's unfinished tasks. The practical shift does not require a second bedroom. It requires a boundary you enforce yourself. Charge your phone outside the bedroom or at minimum across the room rather than beside your head. Keep the bed for sleep, not spreadsheets. Try this tonight. Move one work related object out of your bedroom before you go to sleep. Notice whether the room feels different the moment you close the door. Number 15, the final habit, and often the simplest to fix, an overflowing trash bin as the true last stop of every single day. Think about what that does to your mind. The final image you see before bed, or the first thing you smell in the morning, is often whatever sits in that bin, forgotten, overflowing, never quite emptied at the right time. In many Japanese households, taking out the trash is treated as part of the daily closing sequence, alongside washing dishes and tidying the entryway, not a task saved for whenever the bin becomes visibly unmanageable. The reasoning connects back to osoji, a tradition of thorough cleaning most associated with the end of the year, but built on a daily habit of small resets rather than one enormous effort. A year end deep clean only works because smaller resets happen consistently along the way. The shift is simple. The trash does not need to be full to be taken out. It needs to be gone before you sleep so your home starts tomorrow already partly reset instead of picking up exactly where today left off. Let that idea land for a moment because it connects everything you have just heard. None of these 15 habits are really about objects. They are about whether your home resets itself at the end of each day or simply accumulates one small postponed decision at a time until the accumulation itself becomes the source of your stress. You do not need to change your whole life to feel the difference. You only need to change the order in which a few small things happen. Here is a simple framework to make that practical. Something you can start using tonight at no cost in under 10 minutes. Call it the nightly reset. It has three parts, and each one maps directly back to what we just covered. First, the boundary. Before you sit down for the night, spend 2 minutes at your entryway. Shoes lined up, bags in their place, nothing outside related left drifting into the rest of the home. Second, the surface. Choose one surface, the kitchen counter or the bathroom counter, whichever accumulates the most during your day, and clear it completely before bed. Dishes washed or stacked, bottles returned to their place. A blank surface, even for a few hours, changes how a room feels the moment you walk into it. Third, the closing task. Take out the trash if it needs it and turn off harsh overhead lighting in favor of something lower and warmer for the final hour before sleep. That is the entire routine. Boundary, surface, closing task, 3 minutes to 10 minutes, depending on how far behind the day has gotten. Do it tonight and notice what tomorrow morning feels like. Walking into a home that has already been partly reset for you instead of one still holding yesterday's unfinished business. A calmer home is not built by organizing everything you own. It begins by deciding, honestly and repeatedly, what actually deserves to remain in it. Tonight, before you do anything else, pick just one of these 15 habits and change it. Not all of them, one. Which number surprised you the most? Tell me in the comments. I read everyone, and I am genuinely curious which habit you did not expect to see on this list. If this video gave you even one useful shift, subscribe to the Japanese Reset for more small ideas like this one, the kind that quietly change how a home and the person living in it actually feels. And if you know someone whose home or whose evenings could use a little more order and a little less noise, send this one their way. The useful lesson was never that one culture has it all figured out. It is that a different system applied to a familiar problem can show you exactly where your own habits have quietly been costing you more than you realized. Start small tonight. The rest will follow on its own.